Hi there, I'm Laura from Get Organized HQ, and I have been an organizing blogger and YouTuber for over 10 years. So suffice it to say, I love organizing. I have lots of organized spaces that stay that way for many years. But one question that a lot of people have is, Laura, do you have any spaces that are a total mess, or spaces that you don't organize, or like a Monica closet? And I don't know if this answer will surprise you, but yes, I do. There's actually one area that I gave up trying to organize 8 years ago, and I've never tried. I'm done with it. And that is my freezer. I just haven't found a good way to organize it. Now, don't worry. I have a solution for you if you too struggle to organize your freezer. You don't have to throw out food. You can still use what you have, but this is the space that I don't organize. Now, I should mention that over time, when I first gave up on organizing the freezer, I simply had one freezer that was connected to my refrigerator. It was kind of an apartment size, so it was actually smaller than most, which I think made it harder because you had to stuff everything in there. Over time, I now have like a regular sized freezer that comes attached to the refrigerator. And then I also have a small deep freeze in my garage. And I know some of you may have multiple freezers. It actually does not make the job any easier of organizing. Those deep freezes can be deep. And so let's dive into why it's so hard. Number one, at least for me, is I do not always have the exact same things in my freezer. If I always had 10 packages of frozen broccoli and 10 pounds of chicken breast and 10 pounds of ground beef, it would be easier. Like, you would keep the same things. But for me, my life is just not like that. I take advantage of deals. I buy like a quarter of a cow at a time so that we can take advantage of the better quality meat and better prices. Our tastes change over time. I've had 2 kids in this time, and so they eat different foods than we do sometimes, and so it's just not always got the same things in it. Whereas, for example, with the rest of my kitchen, like, we always have the same dishes. I'm not constantly changing which dishes I have, so that makes it a particular challenge. Also, when it comes to what we're actually storing in our freezers, for me, I'm not always buying the exact same brand and packaging of things, and everything always looks neater and looks more organized if it's in the exact same packaging. So I might buy frozen broccoli from Walmart today. Next week, I might buy it from Aldi. Next week, there's a sale at Kroger. And so I've got all different shapes and sizes, and it's not completely consistent. And if you look at any of those organized spaces on like Instagram and in magazines, you'll notice, especially with food, both in the freezers and refrigerators and also just in pantries, they usually buy the exact same brand and very similar packaging, so it looks really uniform. But that's just not practical for me to do in day-to-day life. Another big challenge comes when you do have multiple freezers. So like, is this in the deep freeze? Is this in the regular freezer? And in addition to that, if you do have deep freezers, those things are deep. I mean, like, no one makes a bin that is going to go the full height of a deep freeze. And so there's just no way to really organize. I haven't found good stacking bins. So there's a little bit of just things getting piled up and having to kind of dig in. There's just not a good way to maximize that space in a way that's super organized. And the last reason I think it's super tricky to keep your freezer organized is that a lot of times there are not bins that fit your freezer perfectly. Now, we have been looking at home appliances a lot recently. We might be remodeling our kitchen, and I have noticed that there is like no standardization when it comes to the interior sizes, or even probably exterior, of like refrigerators and freezers. So one freezer is this size, another freezer is this size. So it would be hard for even a company to make bins that fit the freezer. If you ask me, the freezer manufacturer should make those and sell them as an add-on. I might buy those, but to date, as far as I know, no one does that. So it's really hard to find ones that fit exactly. And so you can try different bins, as I have over time, and almost any of them will be an inefficient use of space. Like, you're not gonna be able to fit nearly as much in the freezer if you're taking up space with some of these bins. They're not gonna go end to end. There's gonna be wasted space. Things aren't gonna fit in as well. And so it's just gonna be difficult to get the maximum use of space. And especially when I started, I only had one small freezer. I needed all of that space. So I just couldn't waste it with bins. If you do wanna use bins, I like the multi-purpose bins, but again, they're not gonna fit perfect in every freezer. So this also adds to the challenge. Now, after all that, I don't wanna leave you hanging. There is actually a solution, but it doesn't involve literally organizing your freezer. My solution, and this has been a game changer, has been to make a freezer inventory, because While I found it difficult to really organize the contents of the freezer, I absolutely do not want food in there going to waste. I want to know what I have. I want to be able to meal plan from it. And I mean, do I have 10 pounds of chicken? Do I have no chicken? I don't know. So we want to know what's in there. And so the freezer inventory is the solution to that. I have this really nice printable. I'll put a link to below if you want to get freezer inventory for yourself. But all this means is that you list out what is in your refrigerator and how many of each of those items that you have. So now when I am looking for that, I know exactly how many I have. It helps so much in meal planning because I know I have like 12 things of flat iron steaks and only 2 things of ground beef, so I might need to use up those steaks. It helps with food not going bad because again, you know what you have. And when I'm meal planning, what I hate is having to rummage around in my freezer. So I have it all right here. And then at the point that I take something out of my freezer, I mark it off so I know how many I have left. And if I buy more, I just continue adding marks so that we know how much we have at any time. So let me just review what I have here on my freezer inventory so you could make one for yourself and understand how much this can help you with keeping your food organized. So first off, we have a spot for item. So this is simply where I list what the item is. You'll also notice a couple places I have so many that they take up 2 lines. So I kind of just left the bottom line blank and put a little bracket so I know that item takes up 2 lines. Then you'll see that the title here is date. I personally don't track the date that I put them in because it's kind of on a rolling schedule. Like maybe I bought ground beef today and I'm going to buy it in 2 months. So that's not uber important to me. Also, when it comes to most frozen food, now I'm not a food safety expert, do your own research, but most of it is not going to cause you harm if you eat it. You know, if it's been in there too long, it's just not going to taste very good, which, okay, I do want my food to taste good, but that concerns me far less than if it was going to actually like make me sick or something. So I'm not too worried about the date. So instead I put the quantity in there. So I have like my 90% ground beef in 1 pound quantities. Then next up we go to the quantity. So you'll see these little circles here. And what I do is when I buy something or add something, or the first time I did this inventory, I put 1 slash through the circle if that item was available. So now I can see how many I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then if I use it up, I put a slash through it. But I do one other thing that I think is super helpful. So like, for example, I buy frozen bags of onions and I rarely use that entire bag at once. I usually have one open that I'm working through and just add a few onions, you know, as I'm cooking as I need it. So what I do is I put a slash that stops halfway down that lets me know that bag is in progress. It's open. That way, when I open my freezer, I know if I have them in there and whether or not I have an open bag, so I can go to that open bag instead of getting 12 bags open and then being like, why do I have 12 open bags of onions? Then at the time that I complete that bag, I just finish the X and put it all the way through. So it's really that simple. You can tell at a glance what you have. As soon as you take it out of your freezer, you just put a mark through it to let you know that you've now used that item, you don't have it available any longer, and you can keep going every time you add to it. Just add a slash to the circle. I will tell you one other thing that I personally did, and you can do this as well if you have multiple freezers. So you can see here I have this little darker purple, so it's inside, so that's our regular freezer inside. And this lighter purpley color is the garage freezer, the deep freeze in the garage. So I wrote it in whatever color corresponding to the freezer that it's in. So I know at a glance that our beef patties are in the deep freeze because there's nothing worse than digging through a freezer and you don't even know what's in there. So now I know what freezer each thing is in, and I'm consistent about that. I keep the things that we use most often in the freezer in our kitchen, and the things that we use less often, or the bigger things like big roasts, are out in the garage in the deep freeze. Now, in a couple minutes, I'm going to walk you through the process of exactly how you can complete one of these for yourself, but I want to share a little bit about how I organized mine. So when I was doing this, I kind of did a rough draft. It was really messy, even got like water spilled on it, and then I rewrote it in a kind of a neater way for like my ongoing inventory. And when I did that, I was able to organize it in order on these inventory sheets. Now, if you really have a lot in your freezer, like especially a lot of variety, you might just have 1 page for meats, 1 page for vegetables, 1 page for fruits. You could totally do that if you wanted to. For me, I was able to fit it all on just 2 pages. And I started out, the first page is meat. So I started with all the meats. I started with the beef. And then you're gonna see here, I have this line here, just I wrote for myself. So we know that all that is meat. beef particularly. And then after that, we have chicken. So I wrote the chicken under that. And then once I got through chicken, this is all the rest of the meat. So that's pork, sausage, and bacon. And then once I get to the next page, this starts my vegetables. So I wrote my vegetables first. And then once we get to the next line, we have fruits. And then once we get to the next line, we have breads, like frozen breadsticks, Texas toast. I have some homemade breads that I make and just freeze if we don't eat them all. And then after that, it's just random stuff. Whatever else is left. For me, it was some cheese, hash browns, and a bag of yeast. So that is kind of how I organize mine. You will also note that when I had double lines of something, like apparently we have a ton of top sirloin steak. I literally had no idea that we had that much. I thought we had a couple things. No, we have way more than that. So now, guess what we're eating? The top sirloin steak. It's actually really good. My husband cooks it. I don't cook it that well. He does an awesome job. So I know when I'm menu planning that that's what I can use because we have a lot of that. So I actually just left the bottom line blank, so I kind of know that those go together. So that's kind of how I structured mine. I know you have some flexibility here in how you want to structure yours, but this gives you a good foundation, and the key really is in all the little circles that you can put a slash through when you have that item. Now let's talk about how you can actually do this if you would like to do this for yourself. So the first step is to remove everything from your freezer or freezers. Ideally, you do this at the same time, and I recommend having help if at all possible. I had my 8-year-old daughter helping me. She was a great help. There's just a lot of stuff to move around, and it's just easier if you have help. Also, you're going to need to work a little bit fast. You don't want things to thaw, obviously. If that is a concern, you can use coolers if you have that to give yourself a little bit more time so things aren't thawing as you do this. So take everything out as quickly as you can. I personally used laundry baskets for this just as a way to transport things. I couldn't even fill them up all the way because I wouldn't have been able to carry them. But I would use this, and I used whatever flat surfaces I could. I used like my dining table, my island. My mom did this. She used like the top of her washer and dryer because she has an extra freezer in her utility room. She also set up card tables ahead of time. So if you have that, make sure you have your flat surfaces set up so you can get it all out. This is also a good time to defrost your freezer if you have a deep freeze. I made the mistake of not doing that. I don't recommend it. Defrost it. So you've got everything out of your freezers. Now you're gonna wanna make sure, just like you do with any organizing process, that you toss what you won't use. So anything that's so expired you won't use it, anything that you're just like, I don't like this. Now, something I want to mention here is this is not the place to get caught up in the emotions of beating yourself up because you can't believe you wasted that food, or you forgot about that food, or why did I buy that big Costco size of thing of stuff I won't eat, or whatever. This is not the time. This is the time to be really objective about it. I want you to keep moving on your project and put those feelings aside. What you can do with those feelings, beating yourself up about something that already happened is useless. It's not going to help you. You're not going to be able to go back and change the past. What you are going to be able to do is know that because you're doing this inventory now, that is going to be far less likely to happen again, and use those feelings when you're shopping at the store to make the wisest purchasing decisions you can. But let's not get mired down in that right now. If you're not going to eat it, throw it in the trash. Don't leave it in there for another 5 years until it's 10 years expired, and then you're really going to throw it in the trash. That's not going to work. So go ahead and get rid of those foods that you won't eat. If you can pass them on to someone else who would eat them, if it's just something that's not gone bad but you just didn't love it, you can do that as well. All right, so now you're left with just what you need to keep. And with these, there's kind of two ways you could do it. Depending on how much you have and kind of how this is working for you, you could go to all those things that are on the flat surfaces and create piles of each thing. So now you've piled up all your ground beef. You piled up all your chicken breasts. If you have a lot of things like I do, that method would have taken me forever. I would have been wandering all over the place. I really didn't even have enough counter space. I did this kind of in batches. So what I did instead is I touched every item. So as each item came in, I touched it, I wrote it down on my freezer inventory. I had a sloppy one. I wasn't worried about making it neat, and I crossed it off. Then I moved on to the next item. That's how I did it. And again, if you do this, don't get caught up in making it neat. And even if you accidentally put it on there twice, you'll clean it up later. Just get it all down on paper, what you have, get it all back in your freezer. If you have multiple freezers, make a plan ahead of time about what you want in each freezer. I already kind of knew that I wanted the ground beef and bison to go in my upper freezer and any bags of vegetables to go in my freezer in my kitchen. So I already knew that, and I knew that anything else meat-wise was going to go in the other freezer, so it wasn't too hard for me to decide where they went and put them back as I went. So you're just going to fill it out as you go, and then as soon as you write it down in the inventory, it goes back into the freezer. And again, I did put this back with a little bit of organization in mind, especially in the freezer inside. I did not in the deep freeze. So if you want to give it a little bit of structure, like the left side of the drawer is vegetables and the right side is meat, that's fine, do it. But don't expect it to stay that way, and don't stress about it. Like I said, my deep freeze is totally like who knows what. But now, again, when I go to it, I know what's in there, so I know if I'm looking for something that actually exists or not, and it makes it a lot easier. So don't get too caught up in trying to organize it. And then you're done. All your stuff will be back in your freezer. You'll have a list of everything. And then if you want to, go the next step like I did and rewrite it more neatly. Make sure you don't have duplicates of anything. Put it in order on your freezer inventory in an order that makes sense. You can totally do that as well. And then make sure you keep it somewhere near your freezer so it's easy to keep up to date. If you are not the only person in your household who might take something out of your freezer, make sure other members know that they either need to update the freezer inventory themselves or let you know, hey, I took a pound of ground beef out of the freezer, so that you can keep it up to date. Because if you don't keep it up to date, then you're going to be right back where you started and you'll have to go through the process again. Now I'd love to show you me actually going through the process. I did this a few weeks ago. I shared on my stories. People love the story. So I'm going to actually put the unfiltered, raw, uncut stories right here for you to watch. I couldn't film the entire process because I was trying to work so fast before stuff would thaw, but I filmed a good bit of it and you can see how this actually looks in real life. All right, you all, this is next level. I can't believe this. This was way bigger undertaking than I thought. We got to move fast because this all came out of our teeny tiny deep freeze in the garage. It's like the littlest deep freeze you can get, and this all came out of it. So I got to get it under control, and we have already done this one. So a lot of work. I also wasn't smart enough to defrost it at the same time. I just didn't have a plan. I want to wait until it's a little colder so I can set the stuff outside, but it definitely needs that as well. So I won't be able to film too much as I go because, again, got to work fast, but I will tell you at the end. All right, friends, this is our deep freeze. Ignore the mess on top. You can tell, try to give you a sense, like it's pretty small for a deep freeze, which is plenty for us. I am done, but I did not organize the deep freeze. It's impossible. I don't even try. Here's what it looks like now. When it's soon, I'm gonna have to defrost it. There was frost all over. I just couldn't do it today. I'll wait until it's colder and we'll get that done soon. And then I may try to give some sort of structure, but it's just nearly impossible with one of these deep freezes. But knowing what's in there helps tremendously because then you know if the thing you're looking for is actually in there. We're gonna eat up starting with that white. That is like a 2-year-old cow that we bought part of a cow. In the freezer, it won't hurt you if you eat it later than you should. The only risk is that it just wouldn't taste as good. So I'm totally fine with that. Like no harm will befall us if we eat that. So we'll start with that. Now we know what we have. And then basically what I did is I organized by putting certain items in the deep freeze and certain items in the regular freezer. Now you'll see that like all the stuff that was there is gone. I'll come back to that freezer inventory in just a second. So here's what I did in the in the regular freezer. Also, I do not organize. It's impossible. Like it's just not possible. This is just one random thing. And then I've got the open bags of onions and pepper blend, which we use all the time. And then just all the vegetables are there. So we have like, at least we know they're in the top drawer so we know where to dig through. Then all of the ground bison and beef is right there with the berries back there. And then this is all of our chicken. Actually, there's a little bit more in the downstairs freezer because we had so much. And then we have bread, Italian bread, and an Italian thing down there. Then we have a little section in our door for shredded cheese, yeast, and ice packs. Then, all right, and also I use these laundry baskets to cart stuff from the deep freeze into here so we have a surface to work on. So I couldn't even fill them nearly all the way because the meat is really heavy. But those were really helpful. I rinsed them out, now they're kind of drying. That's why they're still there. Here's our actual inventory. I'm gonna rewrite it because look at how it got like kind of wet and it was just sloppy because I was in such a hurry. What I did is I had a different color for the inside freezer in the garage. We have one more freezer downstairs, just like a regular refrigerator freezer. And that one I don't even inventory. It has all of our smoothie stuff and I put a couple extra things of chicken in it. So now we know what is where, and and I will just make this a little bit neater. I also had lots of help. Say hi.
Hi.
My 8-year-old was a tremendous help in like helping me put things away and take things out of the laundry basket. So that was really good. We also had a little bit more help from my 6-year-old who ran stuff to the downstairs freezer for us. Say hi, Timothy.
Hi.
Remember that freezer inventory I did a while back? I'm just now getting to the process of rewriting it. So I'm going to order it in a logical order and just make it overall neater and tidier. All right, so I rewrote these. They now look neater. So there's a key for the inside refrigerator and a garage. And then I wrote them in order of this is all the beef, chicken, sausage and bacon. And then we've got all veggies, fruits, breads, and just other stuff. And here there's like, I check, like kind of make a slash for every one that I have. And if it's a partially used, I kind of make a slash down to the middle, and then I'll finish it out when it is completely used. That way I know if I have an open bag of something, like I have an open bag of chopped onions. And so yeah, I feel much better now and ready to use these items. I hope you enjoyed hearing about what I don't organize and how I handle it and come up with a solution anyway. And if you're anything like most of the people who watch this channel, you've got some clutter that you want to get rid of, go check out one of my recent videos about how to declutter your house in a day. Yes, it is possible in most cases. Go ahead and check it out.